So it was 2012, Bakersfield, California. This young man named Ethan was on his way home from school, and he was already worn out from the day he had, and he really just wanted to go to sleep, but he knew that wasn't a possibility because he knew that when he got home, he had a ton of homework to do, and he had to get it done for the day following. So he was contemplating that and how he was going to deal with it on his way home. When he finally got there, he decided, I'm going to immediately go to work. And he started hammering it out. Hours passed. Night came. It was taking a lot longer than he really expected or wanted it to, but he still had to get it done. And then it went deep into the night, and he decided, all right, I have had enough. I've done as much as I could. If it's not finished, then this is all I can handle for the night. So he finally collapsed in his bed. And he was so tired, he fell asleep instantly. Now, Ethan fell asleep instantly, but he did not sleep soundly. As soon as he fell asleep, he started having the most terrifying, horrific dreams he's ever had in his life. He described them as being more real, more vivid, more intense. Even though it was a dream, it was something else. And there was an evil entity outside of his room, in his room that he could see, that is his regular room in real life. Whenever he's laying in his bed, he could see all the things that he could regularly see, but this was in his dream and something was trying to get in, and he could feel the terror. Even though it was a dream, there was too much realism in it, right? And he could feel this evil entity trying everything it had to get to Ethan, and he was unbelievably terrified. But it was just a dream. Besides how terrifying it is, it's just a dream. So when this entity in the dream finally broke into Ethan's room, Ethan immediately jolted awake, wide awake, frozen still. His arms and legs were somehow frozen to the mattress, couldn't move them, and there was this intense ringing in his ears. And he didn't know what was going on. He was trying to get his bearings on things, and then he realized there was a feeling that came over him that he described, I knew a demon was over me. And right above him, he was laying in the bed, and his headboard was right behind him, obviously, with a wall, and there was a large demonic presence hovering over him. And he was frozen even more than he already was, if that was possible. And he was looking up, and this entity had something in Ethan's ears. He didn't know what it was and really couldn't get his bearings beyond everything else that was going on. He didn't understand. He was trying to make sense of everything, but this entity had something in his ears. His right ear started vibrating violently, which is hard to imagine. And it was so intense that the pain and sensation started transferring over to his left side, and then he was feeling it all throughout his head. It was consuming him, and he couldn't stop it, which let him let go of all the fear that you would have of death and anything that would stop you from fighting back. Not that he wouldn't have fought back already, but this seems like the end. Let's give it our all. And he was doing everything he possibly could, using every ounce of energy that he possibly could muster to get out, and moving his arms, his leg to get it out, and nothing was happening. This was impossible to get away from, and there was nothing he could do. And as he's doing this, he sees the demon laughing, and he starts cursing and spitting at the demon. And because he couldn't do anything else, that was his fight back. And this demon continuously laughed at him. And then out of nowhere, this demon exuded a screech that was neither high or low pitch, which is hard to fathom, but also absolutely terrifying. And it was described to be so intense that it was unbelievably painful. And when this screech, or whatever it was, ended, and Ethan had some sort of calmness or no pain for a second, the demon leaned forward and said, soon. And as soon as that happened, Ethan sat up in bed, in the exact same bed he was sitting in, with all the same things, but he was terrified. Jumped out of bed, ran to his wall, flipped on the switch, the light flooded the room. Nothing was out of place. Everything was okay. He could hear his dogs. His dogs were going absolutely insane. They were jumping out the door, barking and going crazy. His dogs were known to be pretty mellow and never acted like this, and that's not their usual characteristics at all. So that was out of the norm, but he was beyond that. He was so scared and so entranced with everything that just happened that he didn't even worry about the dogs, and he ran to the bathroom. And as soon as he ran to the bathroom, he flipped on that switch and he looked at himself in the mirror, and he could not believe what he saw. He was completely flush of color, almost solid white, and his eyes were almost completely red. Not bloodshot, wouldn't even be the term used for this, because any place where white would go in your eyes, it was blood red. He looked like he was in a horror film. Now going forward, Ethan realized this experience was an encounter with a succubus. Now a succubus is a female demon with a male counterpart called an incubus. Both of them are very, 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 very evil entities and have very, very evil intent towards their victims. To encounter an incubus or a succubus is to be in danger of death. I didn't pick this story because it was the most terrifying, horrific, gruesome succubus story or encounter that I've ever heard, read, or seen. I picked this story because of the details and the lack of physical evidence. And because of both of those things, this story that happened to a real person with real feelings, with real fears, could easily be discredited, or in my opinion, more accurately, discarded and forgotten about, dismissed as a mental breakdown, a mentally insane person, whatever you want to call it. You can flip and turn anything into what you want it to be. But this was a real person telling this story, an event that happened in their life. And the scary part isn't the details of the story. The details lead into what is so scary about this story. What is so scary about this story is, yeah, there's lack of physical evidence, but that just means a good crime has been done well. And because of the lack of the physical evidence of this story, and hundreds of thousands of stories like this, but a lot worse, with a lot more gruesome and unforgettable details that will keep you up at night, exist and mirror this exact story, it leads me to make a choice with a sympathetic heart to a person that has gone through this. It has to be, to me, one of two things. And this is just my opinion. Either it is an unbelievably elaborate hoax, which hundreds of thousands of people throughout history have worked together and maintain a consistent narrative to a story without stepping over, breaking, or diminishing anything that the other has said, which doesn't happen in a group of small friends, let alone hundreds of thousands of strangers throughout history, or something a lot more evil is responsible. And real. Happy Halloween.